Now, back in this country, new information today about where a high-speed rail connection across Quebec and Ontario will actually travel. Of note, it may be quite different than what was originally planned following strong negative feedback about the first plan. The Transport Minister made an announcement on this earlier today in Kingston, Ontario, and the CBC's Janice McGregor joins us now live from Ottawa with more on this. Okay, so what did Steve McKinnon have to say, Janice?
He was releasing the results of what has been a fairly long consultation process, the so-called What We Heard document. But really, with Alto, the key question isn't so much what we heard, but where it goes, because a big part of the fight has been figuring out exactly what route it's going to take, particularly from Toronto up to Ottawa. You can see in the map here, the yellow line was what was originally proposed, what they felt would be the lowest cost, fastest way to get a high-speed rail train from Toronto up to Ottawa through Peterborough, and then going along sort of what is Highway 7, if you've driven in that part of the country, more or less, heading to Ottawa and then on to Montreal. But you see that green line there? That's something a lot of people fought pretty hard for, from the mayor of Kingston right on down. The thing to know about Kingston is it is the fourth busiest via rail station in the country. There is a bit of a regional kind of rail hub around Kingston. If the idea behind having high-speed rail is that it would be interconnected to the via rail network, a lot of people wondered why they were not taking high-speed rail into Kingston so that it could continue to serve as a regional rail hub and let people maybe take a slower train into Kingston and then a faster train onward from there, or vice versa. And so we have this new directive, if you will, from the minister today, asking Alto to develop a plan for a southern route option that would include a stop in Kingston to interconnect with via rail, subject, they say, to technical feasibility and project requirements. Does this mean that the idea of the original kind of more northern route is dead? Not necessarily, the minister said.
Well, this isn't a route change, just to be clear. This is the strong indication of preference for one route over another.
Strong indication of preference, but not 100% done and dusted. Of course, among those very concerned about exactly where the train was going to go were people who own land and live in what has been a fairly broad stretch of properties between stations, concerned about, in particular, parts of rural properties being cut off. Remember, with high-speed rail, they kind of build a cage, a fence right around it, which raises very different questions than a simple sort of, lower level crossing that a slower train requires. And so, does this mean that people are being heard? The minister said, consultation means consultation, and he has taken on board the concerns expressed by farmers and others. Take a listen.
I come from a farming family. I understand attachment to the land. I understand fears that projects will interfere with my way of life. We are hoping to systematically reassure people who may have fears. Some of those people will be reassured as we narrow down the possible alignment for this project. Others will be reassured by the work that we've done to prepare to build respectfully in a very narrow alignment.
They want to eventually get to sort of a strip. They say they only need about 60 meters across. They're going to try to use right-of-ways. They're going to try not to cut people's property in half and disrupt, in particular, agricultural businesses. But they do need to tighten up that map. That is work that has not happened yet. The whole point, though, of going through Kingston would be, he said, additive. They know it's going to cost more. They know the train trip overall is going to be a little bit longer, but they still believe it would be seen as better than driving, for example, possibly getting to Kingston in 90 minutes. He held out the promise of maybe going to a Jays game and being able to get back into your own bed by midnight if you took this fast train someday. But of course, this stretch between Toronto and Ottawa, not the first stretch they're building. The first stretch they're building is between Ottawa and Montreal.
So now, Janice, we also know that protesters, as you touched on, were concerned about more than just Kingston being left out. What's their role in this decision?
Yeah, indeed. We've seen protests on Parliament Hill, right? We've also heard a lot of very specific concerns expressed. Of course, you can imagine that people do worry when you have any kind of an issue, possibility of expropriation. It affects land values. There has been a very vigorous campaign against Alto. If you've traveled roads in eastern Ontario, you've seen the signs. Alt no, big social media phenomenon. Federal MPs also jumping on board, especially Conservative ones. Pierre Poilievre has said a Conservative government would cancel this, scrap it. Concerned about the tens of billions of dollars of costs. Poilievre was in Vancouver today, asked to comment on this. He was pointing out that if you live in British Columbia, this could cost your household about $8,000 for a train that you'll never ride because it's in a totally different part of the country. He said he doesn't think this needs to be subsidized like this, and he remains opposed to this entire project. But the head of Alto, made it clear today this isn't the end of the process. He also tried to assuage some fears about the particular land that's going to be used between Ottawa and Montreal, saying that some of it is land that was expropriated previously around Mirabel Airport. And there were a lot of discussions about being able to protect UNESCO World Heritage sites in Kingston and environmentally sensitive areas, and all the work that future consultations are going to continue to do to try to address people's fears about exactly where this railbed's going to go.
Janice, thank you for this. That is the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa.